Good afternoon. This meeting will be recorded. The Zoom application will notify you that this meeting is being recorded. Please press continue on the Zoom application to stay in the meeting. Use the raise your hand feature in Zoom when you would like to speak on an item and also to lower your hand when you are finished speaking. Please unmute when called to speak and mute yourself when you're done speaking. If you're calling in by phone, identify yourself by name before speaking on an item. Press *9 on your phone to raise and lower your hand. Press *6 if you are participating by phone to unmute. Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order at 3:01 p.m. on Monday, June 5th. We have, let's take, everyone's here, so no need to take roll. We have next on our agenda, the consent calendar. On the consent calendar, we have one item that is approval of the March 13th, 2023 Governance and Ethics Committee meeting minutes. Is there a discussion, a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 13th.
Okay, I will second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, please
Aye.
note.
I have to note my abstention. My thing wasn't, my microphone wasn't on. I'll be abstaining since I wasn't in attendance at that meeting. Thank you.
We have 2 yeses, no nos, and 1 abstention. Okay, now we move on to public presentations. Would any member of the public wish to address this body on an item that is not on the agenda?
Thank you. So it's hard to hear, even though I'm that close to you, because you're sitting kind of far from the mic. So if there's any way to get a little bit closer, it's hard to hear you. Even I'm only in the first row. So I'd like to start by saying this is great that I'm able to attend the first or my first Governance and Ethics Committee meeting in a while. I used to come to these all the time. Since COVID, I haven't. And one of the things that I was really supportive of this committee is it set some real precedents and made some actions. It did the lobbyist act or the calendaring thing. It did lobbyists. I mean, it talked about real meaty stuff that the council should be focused on. And I had a little dialogue with Chair Jane yesterday, and some of the things that we talked about, one thing came up that I was really concerned about, and I didn't hear back from, otherwise I wouldn't be bringing this up, but since you didn't respond, I asked the question, do you personally believe there is nothing left to discuss about the grand jury report? And I never heard back from you because you led me to believe in your conversation that because the council made their response and sent it back to the DA, that there's really nothing more to discuss about the grand jury report. And my understanding, I was at that meeting, it was a 6-hour meeting. I was there with you. And my takeaway was, we're going to be doing a lot more analysis in the Governance and Ethics Committee because the Independent Ethics Commission was dismissed as not being required. And nothing has happened in the last 2 meetings on the grand jury report. And nothing is agendized on this particular meeting about the grand jury report and the many findings that they have. The other thing that was brought up is that you mentioned that you think this is more of an advisory committee and implied it didn't really have any weight, or it's just, yeah, it's an advisory committee. We'll just mention something to the council. Like, this is where the work is done on governance and ethics. Ethics, the ethics program hasn't been on your agenda for I don't know how long. It's not on this one, although I'm glad the city manager will be putting an update on AB 1234, because I don't think anyone's taken that class recently based on behavior. And so the purpose of an ethics committee is to discuss the ethics issues in the city and the governance about that and how to implement an ethical environment in your city council and with city staff. And it just doesn't seem like you're taking this seriously. I'm concerned that it's not a priority for this council because it's not agendized on meetings like this. And I sent a letter, which you received, and I sent it to the city attorney, city manager, that somebody needs to prioritize ethics, the ethics program. It's on the wall right behind you in council chambers. And yet we don't follow it. We don't talk about it. We don't hold anybody accountable, and we don't discuss that. And so this is the place to do that, to start the conversation, and it's not happening. You're talking about things like 030 stuff or letterhead or whatever else is going on that you've brought up concerns with, that you have like a personal axe to grind on that. Let's focus on the priorities that the city council and the city needs to focus on. And I hope that's the ethics program and the grand jury report and all the issues. Thank you so much.
Are there anyone online?
Oh, I do have one hand.
Okay.
Wanda Buck just went up. Hey, Wanda.
Hi, I just got here. I don't know if you all saw my email that I sent. The link wasn't working, and so I sent it to the mayor and city council and talked to staff, and they said you would be receiving it. Did you get it?
I did receive it.
Okay, mainly I just would like to see us all come together positively about the ethics in our city, in addition to what I wrote. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we can move on to item number 2. This is review and provide direction to staff on an updated process for mayor and council calling a special meeting. I believe we have a staff report.
Yes, Chair Jane, Glenn Goodin, City Attorney, I'll be leading the presentation on this item with business folks chiming in as they deem appropriate. As is presented in your written staff report, there's an ability to call a special meeting of the City Council contemplated by the Brown Act, both for the mayor and for the City Council itself. But the details of the requirements or the limitations of how that works at the city level is really left to the cities themselves. And this doesn't happen very often, here with calling a special meetings. I understand there was a time when maybe more of this was happening than most recently. But I know, and in order to deal with that and to manage that, a form was prepared, I think, including with input from outside counsel. That has been used the times that it's come up to implement this process for calling a special meeting. I know my understanding here, new to all of you and to this committee, that there had been some concerns expressed about this policy, how it was designed and being implemented by members of this committee. And when I obtained a copy of that special meeting form, and I think concerns were shared by some of the business people as well. We were concerned about how that current process was constructed for really a couple primary reasons. One, there did not appear to be kind of baked into the process, if you will, a mechanism for prior consultations with your senior staff. And there were provisions of the form that particularly the way the signatures were set up, right, for city council members, proposing a special meeting, that might have given the appearance that there was a coordination amongst council people on subject matter for the calling of that, special meeting. So in light of some concerns expressed by this group, and others in our review of that process, I think it was already on your work plan. We're here today to talk to you about some proposed updates to the policy, which really doesn't have a policy itself. It's really more all, incorporated into the form, itself. So I think your packet had a provision of the old form. It's also got a copy of the new form, and you'll notice two primary things in that. First of all, it now explicitly provides for consultations with senior staff before a request for a special meeting is submitted. And the purpose of that is really to get staff input on timing, prioritization, legal issues, workload assessments, or possible alternatives to a special meeting as a way of addressing this particular, concern. It may be absolutely appropriate and necessary to immediately call a special meeting, depending upon the nature of the subject. It also may be something unbeknownst, to any of you that's being addressed, by another board or committee. That's on an immediately future, regular council agenda, is set for a priority setting, meeting that may be, in the future. That would take a significant amount of staff time in order to have the particular item proposed, be ready. And so the proposal that special meeting occur in a week can't really occur in a week, right? We need 30 days or whatever it might be. So our office thought appropriate, and I think city manager's office agrees that some sort of formal integrated mechanism before a special meeting is called for consultations, should be built in. Any of you might do that anyway, right, as part of how you go about conducting it, but helpful, I think, to everyone to have that explicitly included. So that's one of the things you'll notice, in the revised policy. The other thing that's important is that the policy is now set up for just a single council member to fill out the form, and submit it, and have the coordination of the scheduling of that meeting work through city staff. So city staff will do the polling. It will be appropriately, limited in the manner of, communications. There'll be the appropriate admonitions about interactions, between, council members. And I think that's important. I think we all think that's important, right? Obviously, compliance with the Brown Act. The Brown Act includes specific provisions that exempt scheduling of meetings from constituting a meeting for Brown Act purposes. And yet, of course, as you all know, a quorum or more of you cannot be discussing the substance of that issue. Where it is a special meeting that identifies particularly one issue, the scheduling and the substance of the issue can very easily get blurred. And so having a single council member submit the request, having it coordinated for polling purposes through city manager, city attorney's office, almost certainly with assistance, of course, as appropriate from the city clerk, we think balances that interest, right? It's an efficient mechanism, and yet minimizes, right, the possibility of inappropriate communication amongst a council person. So that's really the essence of what's, in front of you today, Mr. Chair. Both myself and business folks are here to answer any questions you might have about that. So turn that back over to you for questions, public input, and then whatever direction you may want to take on this item. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues have, okay, Mayor?
Thank you, City Attorney, for that presentation. I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and I don't know how that would fit into this process because we had at least two situations where 4 members of the city council all had the idea at the same time to submit a request for public meeting to terminate both the city manager and the city attorney. So in that particular case, are they supposed to consult the city manager and city attorney if to be terminated? Because they all, again, 4 of them got the idea at the same time to do this. And
Yeah, we have some thoughts on that, Mayor. I'll
okay,
defer to my
so
city
I
manager
wanted to
colleague
see
first.
how that, and
Yeah.
then secondly, I know that the mayor can call a meeting at any time.
Yeah, that's right.
You're just suggesting as like a courtesy to discuss with the 2 or both or one or the other about the content of the meeting before. But it's not mandatory, but as a courtesy. Those are the 2 questions.
Yeah,
I
very good, very good. And I may answer that one first, and then I'll defer to city manager on that.
Okay.
That's absolutely right, Madam Mayor. That second one, you've got the authority to call a special meeting. You could use the benefits of staff to facilitate polling for people's
Of course,
availability.
we do that. That's the
Yep.
only thing that makes sense. But
Absolutely, but it really is, yeah, the thing that most substantively changes for you is formalizes a pre-consultation process for one or
I
both of us. And
okay,
in your circumstance, it may depend, and I'll defer to city manager on that.
depend on whoever. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to say your comment was sort of spot on with what I was thinking, because as I was rereading the forms, I actually wrote and or city manager, because I can foresee an instance where, let's say if it is a personnel matter and a council member wants to schedule a meeting with regard to the city manager, they may want to go and consult with the city attorney, but not the manager. And so I do think in every place where it says consult with the manager and the city attorney, it should be and or. At the same time, for the most part, I think both Glenn and I think it would be appropriate where in general, there's a consultation with both, oftentimes done at the same time for a non-controversial item. And so I do totally agree that this process that we're outlining with this form is more of a industry standard process, albeit probably more of a formal one. I don't think most cities have forms, but a form like this that doesn't require everyone to sign would align with normal industry standard.
And prior to the last 2.5 years, we hardly ever used the calling of special meetings, but this particular council has called several special meetings. But prior to then, it was once, in a blue moon, we'd call a special meeting mainly for, some kind of emergency purposes or something like that. So I can see this, anyways, that's all I have.
And Mr. Chair, if I might add, to that, also appreciate those comments, Mayor. Completely agree with city manager's approach to that. We'd even talked about that in advance as to whether or not we might include that in the formal, policy. I think the and or, gets at it, and we would certainly, be circumspect about how we administer, the policy on our side. But appreciate that sensitivity, and the and or I think gets at it.
Thank you. Councilmember Chow.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So thank you for amending or making some modifications to the process, basically. I appreciate that. And it does make it a better process than what we had right now. That's first thing. I want to publicly oppose what Mayor said, that 4 members at the same time were for it. I was, at least I can say myself, I was not, did not propose it, but it came to me and I just signed it. I was not party to discussion of it, that I want to get this thing done. So Mayor's statement is wrong, that 4 people want it at the same time.
I'm sorry, I need to say something, because if you look at the forms, it's all the same dates within minutes and sometimes hours of each other at the same time. So please, Councilmember Chahal, state the facts. They were all at the same time.
I don't know what the time was, but if one council member is going around the city to get the 4 signatures, how long would it take, to get a 4
At the
signatures?
same time.
At the same time? Maybe they are somewhere sitting in the city hall at the same place. Maybe that's the case, but I don't know. I don't even remember where I signed it, but that the notion that we 4 decided at the same time and discussed the matter and put that forward is wrong notion. I just want to clarify that at least for my sake. I did not do that and the way you are saying. So please don't infer something which is you don't know in truth, basically. So, but I do agree that this is a process which is much more refined, and a consultation with the city manager and or city attorney is much better, and it will take out the notion of breaking the Brown Act violation on that. So I will be supportive of the new process. But at the same time, I would also want to find out what are the processes with some other cities, if there is any other process some other cities are following, which may be better off or some different way. I would like to look at those so that we can work on those. If we have that information, if we don't, we can work out what our neighboring cities are doing on that. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. We can certainly follow up with that. I will share with you from where I came. There wasn't a formal process for this. It was handled administratively, consistent with what's been outlined here, but there wasn't a formal policy for this in particular. And I think that's been the city manager's experience as well.
Absolutely. Not a formal policy, but informal. But I do want to add that in the case where, let's say it is a personnel item, I've seen where the council may consult with the HR director or someone else in the city attorney's office. And so I do think anytime there is a desire to call a special meeting for a personnel matter and the council doesn't feel comfortable going to the manager or the attorney, you should seek advice from your professional staff. And so Glenn and I can talk about what's the best form. I know other cities have provided a outside counsel on retainer. That way you have someone that can provide the city with legal advice before scheduling that special meeting. And so we can talk about that when we come back.
Thank you.
Okay, this is precisely why we need this policy, is because in December of 2020, there was a appeal for the CVRA lawsuit, and I worked with the city manager to call a special meeting, and I was still accused of violating the Brown Act. So I think leaving it out of having individual council members have to go to other council members to get this, and then being accused of doing Brown Act violations, leaving it to having staff coordinate that is exactly the right way to do this. I have a couple of things. One is there was a gender issue in the resolution. Let me see if I can find it here. It says, this is on page 2 of the agenda report. It says city manager or his designee will poll the rest of the council.
Yeah, appreciate you catching that. We got it in most places. Now that the city manager is a his, I think that was probably a default there, but that will clearly be changed to their designee. Yeah, in the final version. Appreciate you catching that.
Okay, more substantively, is there any concept of a time frame for getting a response from the city manager to act on this or the city attorney? Sometimes these things are very timely, as in the case of the CVRA appeal. We just had a matter of days to get this done. So I didn't know if you had thought about that.
Yeah, it would depend on the item, right? The timeliness of it. And part of the consultation is designed to assess, timeliness.
Yeah.
And if you'd feel more comfortable, with a provision that says, that city manager, city attorney as appropriate, will be sure to timely respond in order to make sure that if the special meeting needs to go on in a certain time, that will be considered. But we would consider that, of course, part of our duties once it's been solicited and timeliness is presented to us to make sure this is handled in due timely course.
Yeah, in the case of the CVRA issue, it wasn't exactly, staff wasn't exactly in alignment with the council, so that was the issue there. Okay, are there any more comments, members of the public? Okay, do we need to take action on this to approve as review and provide direction?
I'll make a
But
motion.
there is a resolution.
Mr. Chair, if I may, depending upon comfort level with this in its current form, with whatever appropriate modifications you identified for us, I think this is ready enough for you to take an action to direct us, to finalize the policy. It could either be brought back here, or if you're comfortable, ultimately it would need to go to the city council for their approval.
Absolutely would go to council. This is
Yeah.
advisory. Yeah.
Yeah, no, understood. Yeah, whatever you would do would be in effect approving it for purposes of presenting it to the city council. But you could see it again as well if you wanted to see any of the particular changes.
We have a motion.
I think I'd make a motion to approve this to send to the city council for approval. Coming back here is a waste of time, so.
Just to clarify, sorry, there is no resolution. It's just the forms that were attached.
Yeah,
I just wanted to clarify that.
to prepare whatever documents that need to go to the full council for approval.
Okay. So.
Revised form.
there a
Yeah,
second?
I'll second that.
Very good, Madam Mayor. And we're building into your motion the corrections and suggestions that we heard.
I didn't even think there was a resolution.
There's not a resolution, I'm sorry, to your
Oh.
action. For example, to make the correction on the word there, in the city manager and,
You're just talking the staff report. That's a staff report.
it was in the policy, it was in the form itself too, Madam Mayor. So it needs to be corrected.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, just wanted to make sure what the,
correct the typos.
yeah.
Yeah.
Number 3 in the form.
And when it comes to the council, we will bring out, if we find something different at different city, that will be brought forward too, right?
We also have the charter. We're bound by the charter. So regardless of what other cities do, we still have to follow the charter.
The charter is basically the foundation, but these policy matters can be refined as per the best policies of different cities. We can make a,
Yeah, good,
Yes.
fair point, Madam. This is consistent with both the Brown Act and the city's charter for implementation purposes. Sorry, city manager.
No disagreement with all of that. I would like to be able to work with the city attorney to bring back a potential modification for how a personnel matter may be handled, because I can foresee an instance where the council may not want to consult with the city manager and the city attorney. And I'd like to provide a venue where you have somewhere to consult before immediately scheduling the meeting. So if that's okay, we can do that modification and bring it back to the full council.
Yeah, don't waste time bringing it back here.
Right.
That's my.
Okay, so she approved that modification. Do you second that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. All right. Now we move on to item number 3 on the agenda. That is review and discussion of council policy 030, adding an item on the agenda. And I believe city attorney will speak to this.
Yeah, me again, Mr. Chair, thank you. This 030 policy has been discussed and amended a couple times over the past few years by the city council with input from this governance committee, is my understanding. Recent updates clarified in one instance that a majority vote of the city council was required in order to add an item to a future agenda. And in another instance, that the initial introduction of an item was limited to whether or not it should be added to the agenda and not the substance of the item. So this has been an active policy with a couple changes recently. The most recent referral to the committee of the policy came from member Jane and others, I think back in 2021, where there was interest in looking as well at evaluating the public referral portion of the policy and potentially other issues. And so we're here today to present some of those considerations for input from this committee. There's no actual formal policy revision that's proposed in front of for you today. We thought, other than different from the special meeting policy, this required a little bit more discussion and feedback from us before any actual specific modifications to the policy were brought back to you. But there are a couple of areas that we wanted to highlight for your consideration and discussion that we thought were consistent with previous referrals and things that we identified when we reviewed the policy. Do we have that slide to put up? Oh, very good. In smaller print than we'd like, probably. These are kind of the areas that were highlighted in your staff report and are worth, I think, highlighting for you and the public today for your discussion. The first one is the concept of prior consultation. Like you just heard on the special meeting policy, both legal and professional and business staff feel that a formal provision for consultation with staff before a 030, is submitted and comes before council is appropriate to allow staff to provide input on timing, priorities, workload assessments, legal issues, and possible alternatives. And maybe this is being handled in some other way unbeknownst to the council person and isn't ripe for agendization, and in fact could be taken up in some different way at some future meeting. So one area of discussion for a possible addition to the policy. In addition, the policy does deal with requests made during council meetings, that can still be done. The 030 is not the only mechanism, for council making a referral. But maybe it might be useful as part of this policy to add some clarity on when and how this might happen, during the council meeting. For example, in the middle of an item, at the end of the council agenda, and again, clarity on what should be discussed and what couldn't be discussed, in that context. The additional concept related to the point I just made for 030s is when during the council agenda is appropriate for those things to be taken up. The current policy has that taken up near the beginning of a meeting. Maybe it's appropriate for the 030s to be taken up at the end of the meeting when council members are giving their general comments, anyway. And it's again, more in a referral mode as opposed to in the middle of substantive actions, being taken by the council. The public referral element of this process, of course, is a significant one. My understanding is, and the mayor may have the best recollection of this, this is something that's been kind of part of the culture and ethos, here for a lot of years. We're still doing some research into the history of it, but we found, this part of the formal 030 policy as far back as 1999. And I understand it probably went back even decades, before that in terms of the public's a provision mechanism for the public for adding, items to the council agenda. In my kind of informal polling amongst the lawyers group, in the South Bay area and my personal experience down south, this is actually a very unusual, provision to have a formal mechanism, for this happening. It can create legal policy issues, like when a city council proposes this, it can blur the line, right, between whether you're voting on the substance of the issue, right, or whether merely, you're adding it to the agenda. And it can potentially force the council to vote on issues that aren't even within your jurisdiction, right, or even appropriate, for you to vote on. If someone came and submitted and wants the city council to declare Vladimir Putin Day, right, in the city council, that's not anything anybody would want to do, but in theory, under the existing policy, that could be tendered and the council would be required to take a vote on that, whether or not you wanted to add that to the agenda. So there are some kind of risks, with it. So there's a variety of things to think about in channeling the public's right, absolutely, to present issues to the city council and potentially get them agendized. And so I know you've wanted to have this discussion, amongst this group today, potentially for modifications in this area as well. There are alternatives to a formal written petition process that might be more typical for other places. Again, doesn't mean you need to do it or have to do it this way if everyone's more comfortable with the history of how it's worked. But a member of the public could ask the city council to agendize an item merely by appearing in the public presentations portion of the agenda and articulating an item in a matter for the city council to agendize. The council hearing that particular proposal could either propose a referral at that time. Hey, I do care about this, city manager, city attorney. What do you think? Is this something you could agendize and bring back? They could either do it at that time or potentially, again, if we're shifting things to the end upon consideration and reflection at the end of the meeting to say, hey, I've thought about this, city manager, city attorney. What do you think? Staff, what do you think? Rest of the council, what do you think? Is this something that should come back before us? So there are alternatives to the formal submission of the 030 policy. In addition, the request could be made of a member of the public submitting a 030 to first go to a city council person to solicit whether or not a city council person would be interested in fact co-sponsoring, that request. Kind of splits it right between the coming purely from the public and finding at least some interest on the council with maybe some appreciation and thought as to what other things are going on with the council. And being able to provide input and curate, that item before it comes to the council. So another thing for all of you to consider and discuss and decide whether or not the existing policy is more appropriate or whether you'd consider changes in that area. Finally, and the last item here for your consideration is potentially adding some language that would provide some clarity around the difference between considerations of whether an item should be added to a future agenda versus the substance of the item. I think people understand that generally, but these things can be blurry, right? It's okay to discuss timing, priority, staff resources, alternatives, legal jurisdictional, issues about the item in deciding whether or not it's appropriate to be agendized at a future meeting. Not okay, of course, to discuss if this item were agendized, what are the pros and cons of taking that action? What do I really think about, this action and deciding that? So I think there's a general understanding about that, but I think it would be helpful both for the council and maybe for the public who's eager to get, an immediate discussion on their item to have a little bit more language, in that as guidance for everyone and helpful for me in referring you all to it so that we can do an even better job of kind of drawing the line on when these types of things are up, for consideration. So those are the areas, Mr. Chair, that we identified. There certainly potentially are others that you might have as the last item. So I turn it back over to you and your committee, again, for questions, solicitation from public input, and then direction to us if you want us to start working on possible modifications to the 030 policy, either in these areas, either consistent with these suggestions or in any other way, this group might deem appropriate. Of course, ultimately for purposes, if you decide to make a recommendation to the city council for final action. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
My colleagues have any questions or comments? Councilmember Chal.
Thank you, City Attorney, for the details. And I think it's something I'm a little bit divided, like that the process we are following is to be modified, or because I think the public has a right to ask for an item on the agenda, but I think what we are debating is whether it should be submitted in writing or the public has to come to the council meeting and say about it. That's the biggest challenge I think you're facing. And as per, if I get it right, you mentioned that submitting in writing is not a right, legally can have some hurdles. Is that correct interpretation of what I heard?
Yeah, I mean, I think the not legal issues, so much, but it requires kind of formal consideration and adding to the agenda without any kind of, ability to curate and evaluate and identify the issue. And we don't know, of course, until all of you decide whether or not you want to agendize it, whether that's, necessary or appropriate. Some of these issues are complicated and could take a lot of work. So I think immediately proposing for it to be included on the agenda in that way does kind of beg a lot of questions. I think the city manager had a comment in response to that.
Yeah, Councilmember Jahal, I think it's not so much as having the request in writing, because a public comment can be in writing. It's your current policy essentially dictates that that item go on the agenda, and it forces the city council to take a vote on it, even if that vote is only whether to agendize it later for further discussion and have staff analysis as a part of it. And so your current policy allows for people to place things on the agenda that could be wholly inappropriate. And so there may be other ways where you can have the public approach their governing body with items of interest to them or the community that doesn't immediately put it on an agenda in written form where you have to take a vote on it.
So I'm just trying to find out the difference. Like, I know as per your, what you're saying is you still want to have the public opinion listened to and then acted upon. But I'm a little bit debating, like, why can't public, the policy the way we have right now, why can't that be an appropriate way? I'm not convinced of that, okay, let's get rid of this thing and let's come back with the policy that we will listen to somebody during the council meeting and then make a decision, council makes a decision.
Yeah, and and I may just be repeating what the city manager just said. I think the difference is subtle, but I think the difference really is the way the policy is currently established in this area. It requires you to vote, when in fact, none of you may have an inclination to take up this item at all for any number of different, reasons. Or, you'd want some consultations, first with the city manager and the city attorney's office. All of that can happen either through a written form or through a public presentation, form. But with the current version, it requires you to vote, no matter what, on the item. So this wouldn't, any change to this existing policy wouldn't prevent a member from the public to bring an item of their concern to you for your attention. It would just wouldn't necessarily require a vote on that item unless, again, whatever the process might be, one of you takes it up and refers it over to the, the rest of you and asks for either consensus in an informal way or a formal vote, depending upon, again, how the mayor might preside over that particular item or what the policy might say.
So basically, we are trying to avoid a council vote on every request from the public.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not trying to avoid anything. This is us responding to, an area that was identified as something that you all, wanted to revisit. We're prepared to design the policy in the way that this committee recommends and or the city council also, ultimately decides. We have and certainly can continue to work with the existing policy and its form. This is just us all talking out loud and revisiting it, together with us here to provide you input on kind of our experiences in other jurisdictions and pros and cons of different approaches.
Got it. I would like to hear from my colleagues.
Oh, and did you? they wanted to-
I think you clarified, Glenn, but we are coming back to the committee based on direction from the committee. So I just wanted to make sure we weren't just bringing this forward. We did have direction to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't here for the last two meetings, so I don't even know how this came up, but I wanted to give a little background on why we had that 030 in the first place. In the past, when a member of the public wanted to address the council, they would just submit a written petition and they would get on the agenda 2 or 3 meetings. I think it was two meetings from when they submitted their written petition, and it would show up under written petitions on the council. But we had a council member who was taking his own personal issues, even though we had goal setting every year. He was taking his own personal issues and going to different departments and getting city attorney to do work and other things without the full council's approval. So we added the 030 policy so that, if a council member was like that they would have to get permission from the rest of the council before staff was doing a bunch of work on whatever personal, issue that they had, that they have to, the whole council, they would need a majority vote, even for the staff just to work on it. So it was more for the council policing ourselves than it was for the public. So we then added the public into that 030 policy. But it was supposed to be that we have our goal setting and you stay within your goals, and that, anything outside the goals, but it's not worked. The council policy has not worked, 030, because we have council members that routinely put things on the 030 policy, even though they're not in our goal setting. So it hasn't worked. So if we do away with that, I think that's fine on the council level because it's not working. But I would caution everyone that if a member of the public wants to put in a written petition or any kind of petition to the council, we can't stop where they live, who they are, what the topic is. I would not be in favor of any of that. If they want to put in a written petition, they have a right to put it in, or whether they come to public presentations or whatever. I'm more concerned about the public, because whatever intention we had for the 030 from the council, it's not working because council members are just putting in whatever they want to put in every week. So that's my opinion on it. I wanted to give a little background on it.
Would you like to make a comment? I have comments.
I'm sure, maybe just quick response to that. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate that. And you had shared a little bit of that, with me when we talked about that. Along the lines of what you're describing with kind of managing council referrals. I think one of the suggestions here goes even that step further, right? And contemplates the prior consultations, again, with city manager and city attorney staff, again, to kind of put that within the overall context of what's going on, with the city in order to manage that even, that much more. And so I just wanted to say this.
Can I just say something too? Let me just, that I forgot to say was that when we have our goal setting, that's like our business plan for the year. So if you're running a business, and I know things come up on an emergency basis that you need to deal with, and that's fine. That doesn't include that. Because in a community, things happen and we have to address them as they come up. But if you have a business plan for a city, you need to follow your plan and your goals. And just because maybe you didn't get something included in the goal setting doesn't mean that you can come with the 030 and take it outside and still try to push, even though we have agreed as a city, this is what our priorities are. Can you imagine running a business where you're changing your plan every meeting? You're directing funds and resources in a different direction for whatever reason. So that's why it's important that we set a priority as a council and we stick to those priorities, with the understanding that things are going to come up. So I think that's why I think that the 030 policy for council members doesn't work, because people aren't respecting, and granted, we've had, no real leadership for a long time in terms of staff, city manager, city attorney. So we've had, I don't know when our last goal setting was, a couple of years ago. So everything's been in flux for the last few years. But I think that if we're, agreeing as a council to how we want to govern, that it's important that we stick to that as much as possible. So I wanted to add that in as well.
Okay, city manager, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Jane. And I just wanted to not really respond, but make a couple comments about goal setting. And Mayor, I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually think a lot of this actually relates more to goal setting than a 030, or other cities have these practices and they don't call it a 030. It's just if someone, whether a council member has an issue, they can bring it up on the agenda under council comment. Without a really good goal setting process, what you end up having is council members or members of the public come to a regular business meeting and attempt to drive the agenda and the goals of the organization. That causes a big challenge, not just for the organization, but also for your executive. And as the executive of this organization, my goal is to accomplish the goals that you set before us. And that should be done during an annual goal setting process, because there's only so much bandwidth for the organization, right? And so through that process, we should discuss all of the ideas that individual council members have. You can even have a public part of that where the public comes with things that they think the organization should work on. But we should leave that goal setting process with a very clear set of goals and objectives that have been balanced by staff with the workload, and we would set expectations with here's what we think we can accomplish, here's a timeline that we think we can accomplish it. And then you actually, as a body, hold me, and to the extent that there are any on there, to the city attorney, accountable for accomplishing those. Where that process fails is when at every council meeting or every other council meeting, there's something added to the plate, whether it's a 030 or a general staff referral. And I worked in a prior organization where when I started, there was over 300 council referrals. And that's because every meeting or every other meeting, there was a new idea that popped up. And so I really do think as an organization, we need to get back to a robust annual goal setting process. And then it is up to the city council to actually police themselves and say, you know what? We set goals and objectives for this organization. We're holding the manager accountable for that. And we're not going to say yes to this item, because if we say yes to this item, something else comes off the plate. And I've been a part of practices when you have that thing that comes up, the council says, you know what, this has to be critical, it has to be important. And manager, we find this item so critical that we think we need to add it to the plate. Can you come back to us with your ability to accomplish it? if we direct you to do this, what that may push off the plate or delay. Because then I think your executives and your professional staff can actually work toward the goals that you set versus a constant surge of the system. And so I would really look forward or encourage us to look at a process where we really concentrate on annual goal setting, and the things that come up, whether they're from the public or individual council members during the year, they really have to reach a high bar, because what they're doing is they're pushing off what you as a body have already directed us to do.
Okay, I had some comments on that. I used to attend a lot of goal setting meetings, and I found that they, in general, lacked substance. They were to develop the strategic pillars. And so we have these 7 strategic pillars, but they didn't get into so much saying that we need a homeless task force, or we need to have a TDM plan, things that I've been interested in doing. And so the 030 I've used a lot. I admit that I've used it a lot, but the reason is because we didn't have a goal setting process for the last 2 years. And I had a lot of priorities that I was interested in pushing. The problem is that the current process of scheduling agenda items, the mayor can put things on the agenda, and there wasn't really a way for council members to put something on the agenda. And so the 030 was a process for council members to put something on the agenda. Often I would talk to 2 other council members about whether the idea was good, and then that prevented me from talking to anybody else, including the mayor, about getting something on the agenda. So I use the 030 process because we didn't have the goal setting, and my experience of the goal setting was that it was not deep enough in terms of initiatives that would have budget associated with the items. And it's hard to do that sometimes at a goal setting meeting, because you're asking, I want to do a homeless task force. How much is it going to cost? And it takes the city manager a while to come and establish how much that's going to cost. In terms of the 030 for the public, lately, I believe it's been weaponized. It's basically all about censures and things that when you do it, when the member of the public does 030, it's forced to be put on the agenda and you have to vote on it. And it puts people into very difficult positions when you have to vote on something that as controversial as censures and things. So I like the idea of having a co-sponsor, a council co-sponsor of a public 030. I also just like the idea of the member of the public presenting at a public presentation and then having a council member refer to the city manager. So that's really a process. Now, I'm on the board of the VTA, and they don't have a 030 process, but they have an agenda item, just like we do on today's agenda, which is the last item, which is items for referral. So if we use that process, it says committee member reports, future referrals for consideration. So that could be used as a substitute or a 030 for a council member to make an item for referral. If the current 030 process is not working, but the VTA board members do issue items for referral at the last minute. So there's the 030 process. Maybe there should be a discussion with the city manager before the 030 comes up. Often I will submit a 030 and the city manager will call me back and we'll discuss it, and I'll not submit it. So that happens too. So, but I believe that there needs to be a little bit of filtering for 030s from the public. And I think just getting one council member to co-sponsor it should be sufficient if we're going to use a written process. And that's pretty much all I have. Thank you. Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to say, if you look at our goal setting for the past few years, not the last one we had was, I don't know, a year, it was during COVID. But the previous ones, they were usually over a 2-day process and they were quite extensive. If you look at the past reports, I'm sure our staff has them. We went over each department. It was really intensive and came up with a work plan. It wasn't just the 7 pillars. It's a lot more than that. So I suggest you look at that because there was some great models on how we worked and how we were able to track the success of the priorities that we had established. After, when COVID hit, COVID was our, recovering from COVID was our main priority. We had some minor ones, but getting the city back working again was the #1 priority. So during the last goal setting session was mainly just COVID. But I just don't think we can limit what the public says, what they ask for. And always in the past history of Santa Clara, if somebody submitted written petition, we voted on it one way or another. Do we want to consider it? Do we not want to consider it? We can't just bring things that are acceptable to somebody from the public. I think that, they have their free speech and they can ask us for pretty much anything they want to ask for. So I wouldn't be in favor of anything that limits the public in any way.
Councilmember Chal. Oh, City Manager.
I didn't want to jump in
ahead.
front of the
Good.
council member, but I did have a comment to something that you mentioned, Council Chair Jane, if I could. What I would love to be able to do is to develop a goal-setting process for us that is very robust. I can't state what happened before, and I know some people could look at a process and say that was a good one, and other people could look at the same process and say that that was a bad one. What I think this organization needs is a very comprehensive goal-setting process that allows council members to articulate, potentially allows members of the public to articulate, but then also allow staff to do the necessary work to come back to you. And so it's not a 1 or 2 session thing, right? There's some time in between there so we can put together an analysis on, there's been an idea to do X. What will that cost? Estimated ballpark. How long will it take? So you can make an informed decision on actually putting that on the goal list, knowing some of those will be annual, some will be multi-year initiatives, right? But, and so a really good goal setting process has the ability for you to make an informed decision, not simply, here's an idea, it's now a goal, but it's actually more of a detailed project because that's what these are. I would also say in whatever modifications that are made to the 030 process, I think it's a core tenet of government that we serve the people and we should be accountable to the people, and having a process where the public can come and articulate to the governing body what their thoughts are, what their desires are, what their petitions are, absolutely. And so I think any modifications that staff propose will certainly have that as a core tenet.
Councilmember Chal.
Thank you, Chair. So I was coming to that, like the goal setting process and refining the goal setting process, because I just take an example, like we were discussing about shuttle program in city of Santa Clara, and during the goal setting that was shut down. No, we don't want to have anything of that. We don't have a time for that. But opportunities come down the line, right? I sit on VTA PAC, and during that discussion, we might have something, hey, there's a grant available. We don't have a funds, but there's a grant available. And that's what exactly happened. There was a grant available. Different cities are getting different grant. Although during the goal setting, the process was shut down, that council does not have priority for this thing. But that is some of the, like I would want to say micromanagement, but within the goal setting pillars, if you have an opportunity, then we should bring that item back. And that's the reason I'm saying the goal setting is much broader. And it has to be refined, as you said. And during the goal setting, it is because there are so much items on the table, we cannot discuss each goal set, each item in details. So we still have to filter those and come up with a solution. But sometimes we miss something. And that's the reason we have to, like TDM. I served with Councilmember Jain on Planning Commission. We have been fighting for that thing since we were on Planning Commission. And that's not brought forward, and that was turned down. But we need to bring that forward. So there are some issues which come up as per the opportunities during the process of day-to-day process, and we need to bring those forward. And I agree that the process of consultation with the staff, and if I bring something, I should be able to convince the city manager and at least one of my other council member, hey, this is what I want to bring forward. Are you okay with me? The city manager or city attorney, if it pertains to city attorney's office, and then bring that forward. The vetting of that, whatever we want to bring forward, is important. And as regards the public, I am also of the opinion the public has a right to ask for anything, but the suggestion that they should be endorsed by at least one council member, doesn't matter whether the council member is from their district or not, I don't care, but that would refine the process a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we can go to the public now. Would any member of the public wish to address us on this topic?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Jane, Kirk Vartan. I heard a couple times, and maybe just the way it was phrased, that the city manager used, and if I'm taking it out of context or if I didn't hear it right, again, it's just about holding people accountable. I heard that during the goal setting sessions, you might want to include public comment. It seemed like it was kind of adding it as you can do it if you want to, and I hope the intent is it's always there. What I really appreciated, the last couple of goal settings I attended, there was like 4 different times the public could participate. It's not just one time at the beginning, but it was multiple times, and it was iterative. It wasn't as rigid as like you have 2 minutes or 3 minutes and you can't ask questions. Because my biggest challenge, and I don't know if the 030 is the right place to air this, but in terms, we've talked about we've covered a lot of territory here. But the public gets their 2 minutes or 3 minutes to speak. And even in today's session, I asked some very specific questions on whether or not there needs to be any review. Do you believe, as an individual, do you think there needs to be any review of the grand jury report? And after public's comment, the chair just moves on to the next topic. And I know that you can't have extended discussion on public comment. I get that. Otherwise, you could digress into chaos during council meetings. But when is the public questions, when is the appropriate time to actually dialogue on that? If a 030 is how you do it, that doesn't happen that much either, because if the council's voting on that, they don't have to give reasons to why they're supporting it or not. They could just vote it down and just be done. So the idea of a collaborative discussion or a dialogue doesn't seem to exist in the processes that this city or most cities have. And it would be really nice if Santa Clara, since one of the things I really appreciate about this city, which is why I spend most of my time here, is you can actually talk to people as people. Like, you guys are people here. In San Jose, it's just a machine. I don't see any value in participating in that level of council discussion, because it's so big and corporate like. But here, this is a smaller city. You have the ability to turn quicker and to actually make a difference, impactful difference on things. And you're not full time, so you get to, I mean, council's not full time, so you can actually, talk to people. And so, oh, sorry. All right. So I'm done, but I would just appreciate if there's a way to incorporate the public discussion and feedback when public asks questions that aren't just feeling like they're being heard but ignored.
Anyone online?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay. So It's very hard to pin down where we go from here. City manager, you have
Sure.
thoughts? Yeah.
Yes, Chair Jang, have a couple thoughts. And I think there was a comment from the public that deserves a little explanation. When I articulated that we can have a goal-setting process and possibly include ideas from the public, I actually was not talking about public comment. By law, we always have to take public comment. Was I was actually talking about, we can design a process where the public submits their ideas for council goals or strategic initiatives. Some cities do surveys where you do a survey before your goal setting process and say, the city council is meeting on X date. Fill out this survey. Tell us what you want to do. Tell us what you want your city council to focus on. So that's what I was referring to. And I said maybe because I think we need some time to talk about it and think about it. And I'm in my 5th or 6th week here, and I want to understand sort of what the history is and have that so we can develop, I think, an appropriate goal setting process. This item is before you because it is, it was a referral. I think it was a 030 to talk about the 030 process. And so what I think I've heard is almost a universal, boy, the process isn't perfect right now. And maybe some openness to modifying it. And so what I would recommend is that you direct staff to go back and come back to this committee with potential modifications to the process. Give us some time to talk about it based on the feedback that we've heard here today. I think it's also important to note that unfortunately, the structure of government means that a city council meeting is actually the business meeting. It's a governance meeting, and you have a ton of business to get done. And what that oftentimes means is that I think it is not the forum where city councils or governing bodies respond to or oftentimes act on things from the public, because you can be inundated with that and not get to your business. But yet we have to respect that we're doing the public's business, and the public has a right to come to their governing body, tell them what they think, and influence how the governing body does the work that it does. And this is hard work that we're talking about. And I think Santa Clara has a history of a 030 process that, in my professional experience, is a little atypical. I think we could survey the cities in Santa Clara and San Mateo County and find that the current process you have here is atypical. That doesn't mean that it's not the right process for Santa Clara. It has a long history here, and we certainly respect that history, and maybe that continues. But what I'm hearing from the committee is at least some openness to potential changes to the process with a number of feedback that we've received from the committee members as well as the public. And so my recommendation would be that if in fact you're open to further refinement, sort of a general direction to staff to bring forward ideas back to this committee may be appropriate.
I can make a
Mayor?
motion that we refer this back to staff to come back with a process that's, or some options for us. But also that includes making it, as easy as possible for the public to address the city council.
Go ahead. Do you have some comments?
I only had a comment was the last part of the referral you mentioned. I think Sunnyvale follows that one too. They discussed informally at the end of the council meeting, and if there is some referral, they can talk about it and decide about with the staff to bring that forward. So that can be other option.
I typically, did you say that public's at the end of the meeting? Is that what you said, Raj?
Yes.
Oh. It's not fair in our meetings because look how late they go, 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's why I usually prioritize and pull them up for members of the public.
What I'm saying, Mayor, if I have to bring an item for referral to the council, instead of bringing it at the very first item.
You council or
During the
public?
council, during the council.
Council
I should bring,
members?
when you say any council members.
Yes,
you have-
yes. I thought
at
you
that
said
time.
public.
No, no,
Sorry.
no.
I thought you said.
I'm said
didn't
council
hear
members.
you. I thought you said.
Referral
public.
from the council member.
All right.
They follow, I think they follow the same. Sunnyvale follows the same.
All right.
same process.
I just, go ahead, city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I concur with the manager's suggestion and your, direction back to us. We've heard a lot of thoughts from each of you on things you might be, open to, and the mayor identifying an interest. I want to make sure the public comment is, preserved and not, encumbered in any way. I just wanted to make clear, as we're talking about these things and possible modifications to forms of public input, that nothing about anything I'm talking about or might even suggest, and I know this is true for the city manager as well, is intended to dampen, or discourage, public comment. As the city manager pointed out, it really is just also trying to make sure that that opportunity is channeled in a way that's constructive, and that can be translated into things that you actually do, as opposed to making it hard for you to do the very business that you're trying to do for the benefit of the public. So there's a balance, right? And one of the things I not only believe as a public servant, but am duty bound to defend, is the opportunity for the public, to provide, input, to you. And it does sometimes seem artificial, and without the back and forth. And the challenge of that, of course, is the Brown Act itself, right? The very thing that gives public the guaranteed legal opportunity to provide input also doesn't allow you to discuss and deliberate, on things that aren't on your agenda, because the public hasn't been given a full, and proper notice of that. So there's a tension, there. And so what you're hearing from all of us is really wrestling, with that tension and trying to get it right. And I just didn't want to leave anyone with the impression that as we look at these things and figure out where it goes and on the agenda, and do you need to vote on it or not, it really is trying to strike that right, balance. And so appreciate all of your input, and certainly support working with city manager to come back with some options for you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
My comment was that I'd love to get your ideas, but I'm always interested in seeing what other cities do and what works for them. So I would just say, let's survey a few of our neighbors.
Okay, I'll second the motion Mayor made, the referral with. the
Okay.
condition that
Very good.
We'll survey the other cities.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, now we can move on to item number 4, which is discuss and consider proposed amendments to policy and procedure 006, guidelines for commissioners for attendance and conferences.
Thank you, Chair. The Governance and Ethics Committee routinely reviews existing policies to modernize the policy and procedure manual, which is the council policy manual. So as part of your 2023 work plan, the committee was going to review policy and procedure 006, guidelines for commissioners for attendance for conferences and training events. As some background, the policy was established by the council in 1997, and it was last updated in December 2012. Staff has made the following recommendations in the red line version of your packet for the policy, including adding a purpose statement to the policy to make the format consistent with other recent council policy updates, adding a guideline stating official travel must be related to the commissioner's roles or duties and approved by the commission, adding a guideline which requires board or commission approval prior to registration and travel arrangements, adding criteria for overnight lodging, which was not stated in the policy previously, and just updating the policy guidelines with concise language. So we are requesting the committee approve the proposed amendments to the policy. And if you have any discussion, thank you.
My colleagues have any comments on this?
I reviewed the changes, and I think there are more refinements, better than where we are. And I'm not sure, I did notice if out-of-state planning commissioner or anybody going, that has to come to the council. Did I read that right somewhere? Correct, right?
Yes, the original policy stated that the council had to approve out-of-state travel. So we left that in place unless the committee wanted to suggest anything else.
I think when we were planning commissioners, we did go out of the state and it was not, it never got approved from the council because it was.
I believe we always, it goes on consent, we approve it, yeah. Pretty sure it does.
Okay, what the planning commission were doing, they had a budget, fall within the budget and they approved within the council member. So that was my concern, like, do we need to involve the council for, if they are within their budget for that? For international, yes, I would say that, but for out of state, but if it is a practice, if we are done in the past, I'm okay with it. But that was my concern, that for commissioners to be approved for out of state, we don't have to put that binding on that. Thank you. I do have some questions on our policy. I'm not sure the official travel by, it was included in this packet also, although the agenda is different, but that policy is included over here. I have some comments on that. I can make that later on. Thank you.
But you can make those now. We can do both the 006 and the 043.
Oh.
Yeah.
So on this one, I have like, what I want is just like the transparent process within the planning commission, they always, at planning commission, we always discussed who is going to this even for local conference or something, we used to discuss that. And it was known by all the planning commissioners that this event is coming up, who is interested, who is not interested. But I think the council level, we are lacking that communication within the council members and the mayor, basically, that we don't know. Sometimes we came to know about a council member or mayor or somebody going to a conference, we don't even know, oh, there was a conference about it. So that communication is lacking. So I would try to find out a process where if the council has to go, council member or a mayor has to go for a conference, it should be put in forward to the council for appropriate notification, communication, so that we can, if somebody else is interested, they can participate in that decision making. Oh, I'm interested or somebody is interested. I saw the lack of that communication within the council. So that's.
City manager.
Through the chair. Hearing about the issue, I think that there are some issues that are best served by policy and some that are best served by practice. And so I think that we can address that through our practices and notifying the council of various conferences and emails that we send. And so my recommendation is that we don't need to change the policy and let us change our practices. And then if that's not working, we'll talk about it again.
And I agree, like, these are minor things which can be improved in the process, basically. We don't need to change this policy. This is pretty refined and good policy as such. So it's just how we make it better, communicating among ourselves. Yeah, I agree with that, city manager.
Okay, Mayor, do you have any comments? Okay, I brought this up because this came up at Planning Commission. There was an instance where they were going to Oakland for a training, an APPA training that started at 8 in the morning. And it was just impractical to require somebody to get to Oakland at 8 in the morning, given the commute situation here. So they wanted to have this changed, and I'm looking at number 9 here. And it says, you've added this. It says overnight lodging may be approved depending on whether an extensive commute is required to reach the conference event by 8 a.m. And my question is, approved by whom? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Jane. I actually circled that because I wanted to, if we didn't talk about it, I was gonna request a change to that.
Okay.
And so I wanted to suggest that it be approved by the city manager and suggest that we don't put 8 a.m. in there and we say by the start of conference activities. What if it's 8:30, right? I think, and there may be an instance where travel arrangements may be such that you can't even get there by 11. So I think approved by the city manager and change the language to.
I would just say early start or something.
You know, In thinking about what we write in policy and practice, my recommendation would be that we leave it broad.
Okay.
Only because when you think of airline travel now, sometimes they're one flight a day. I've had a professional colleague tell me that I used to go to a meeting every Tuesday and they canceled the Monday flight, so I have to fly in on Sunday now. And so, I think, if we leave the policy language broad and we just provide direction to staff to administer as appropriately, that would be fine.
Yeah, so another comment I had was that Planning Commission used to have a budget of $20,000 for conferences and travel. And I think it's very important that planning commissioners attend and get trained because they're making important decisions. But then we reduced during the COVID, we had budget deficits. We reduced that to 10,000. And I'm wondering, what is the procedure for setting the budgets for all of the commissions? And when is that reviewed and how does that happen?
So annually, staff will propose a budget, and we would do that based on a number of items, based on need, based on prior track record of how that line item was expended. And so you're correct in that the budget line item is 10,000 and it was reduced. I think we can take a look at that as time goes on to see if there's actually a need for more conference travel. Certainly, if we were approaching the budget and it was not a significant amount, the city manager does have the authority to transfer money within line items to provide additional relief if we're approaching that limit, but it's needed for the conference travel.
I think on Planning Commission, it was nice that they would regularly give us a report of how much money was left. And so we knew who could go and people would think about going, and they were encouraged to go, which is important for planning commissioners. The other thing was I noticed two items that seemed a little out of date. One was in the 043 process, which was on the frequent flyer rewards. It said rewards granted under frequent travel programs through airlines, hotels, or any type of travel vendor, if accrued through official travel and at the city's expenses, shall be issued only for official travel and turned over to the city for future official travel to the extent possible.
Yes, that is out of date. And so 043 is not before you today. We just included that because there was a question last time. So we can come back with amendments to that policy.
Okay, and the previous item too is course materials. Course materials will be turned into the mayor and council offices, council library, or elected officials' respective departments' library as applicable for open accessibility, except for safety sensitive portions of such materials. So if somebody goes to an APPA conference, do they have to who do they turn in all the materials to?
Chair, so at times we do have council members that return from conferences give staff packets, which we do leave in the main lobby of our council office, but perhaps we don't always follow up with all of them who have packets, but most of them do give us
And
some
there's
material.
a council library somewhere?
It's basically the file cabinet in the office.
Okay.
When we look at this policy, we can look at that. I know a lot of conferences now will have all of the materials electronically and they'll leave it open for a certain amount of time. And so we can create an electronic file library, whether that's in the policy or not, or whether that's a practice. Again, to me, it sounds like something that actually doesn't need to be written in the policy, but it could be a part of our practice.
Okay. That's pretty much all I had for this then. So do we want to then make a motion? Oh, members of the public, sorry.
And sure. Before the motion, I would like to make another comment on 006, but we can do that after.
Okay. Would any member of the public like to speak on this?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay. City manager.
Thank you, Chair. On policy 006, item 3, all travel requests must be pre-approved by the board or commission prior to travel arrangements. If the committee is willing, I'd suggest we put a exception in there for urgent items approved by the city manager. There may be something that comes up where it would be appropriate for a member of a board or commission to go, but we just can't get it on an agenda. And so if you're comfortable allowing the city manager with that discretion, if it's impossible to get it on the board agenda, I think that would be appropriate. And then on the item where you approve the very next item, section 4, you approve out-of-state travel, and it says subject to approval by the city council. I think there was discussion about removing that. I had in my notes to recommend potentially approved by the city manager, again, because you may not be able to get to the city council.
Those are acceptable to me.
To approve the revised 006 with the changes suggested by city manager. And I had that 8 AM also noted down my comment.
I can't hear you, Raj. Can
Oh,
you ru-
Sorry, so I make a motion to approve 006 as presented by the staff with the changes we discussed on 3 items.
Second.
Okay, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimous.
Thank you. And Chair, just to be clear, and I know this group knows, but for benefit of the public, your approval, of course, means it's being recommended for presentation to the city council. Correct. As recommended by your committee. Thank you.
Okay, item number 5, review and discussion of council policy 020, proclamations, commendations, and certificates of recognition. That's being deferred to the September 11th, 2023 Governance and Ethics Committee meeting. Mayor?
I'm going to ask, why is this on the agenda? Because we updated this policy in 2021 and it was voted on by this council. So why is this on the agenda? I'm sorry, I wasn't
Yeah.
at the last meeting,
It
2
was-
meetings.
It was directed at the last meeting that it come back on this agenda, and the city manager would like some time to review it, understand the issues around it, and then bring it back.
Because we just updated it.
It was
We did
it
refer
was
it.
requested by the committee.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Now we're on to item number 6. Discuss and consider modification to the work plan or an alternative process to evaluate the creation of an independent ethics commission. And since this item was requested by the mayor, I'm going to ask the mayor to speak on this.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I requested that this item be on the agenda as part of the grand jury report. One of the items in the grand jury report calls for a recommendation that the city council, let me get it exactly. The city should establish an independent public ethics commission with guidance from the Mark Ellis Center for Applied Ethics to help ensure that all public officials conduct government decision-making processes in an ethical, transparent, and unbiased manner without favor. And so that was one of the many ethical type recommendations in the grand jury report. And although I know that the city council pretty much did not accept virtually all the recommendations from the grand jury report, on the particular item that talked about the need for an independent ethics committee, let me find it here. Here's my item. Okay. The response from the city council majority at the time was that the council will not implement the recommendation, right, which was typical for every ethical recommendation in the report. But the council already held a governance and ethics committee meeting on December 5th and intends to prioritize reconvening the committee on a regular basis to address concerns of this nature. In addition, the council board welcomes possible guidance from and consultation with the Mark Ellis Center or other sources with due consideration for cost and related factors. So there are several times in the grand jury report when it talked about the ethical issues facing the city council, that this would be the committee that we would bring back the discussion to. And as was pointed out by Kurt Vartan and Wanda, they have been asking for the discussion here, and it hasn't been on the last two agendas. And so I put it on this agenda to discuss it because of all the items on our agenda. The thing that is concerning me and other members of the community is that the biggest issue facing our community now is the ethics of our city council and the way that business is being conducted, and it's not transparent. And there was absolutely no response at all to the grand jury report of all the issues that have taken place and that are still taking place. So I think that I want this added to the plan, that we create this independent ethics commission, that we work with the Marcola School of Ethics or someone else, because I don't think when it comes to ethics and government, that the cost, although it will be minor, that the cost should be a consideration, which is a lot of the responses to the grand jury accusations about the city council, were that, no, we can't do any of those ethic related issues. We can't respond because it may cost us too much. So I think that that is not a reason or an excuse that we need to address this. We need to address it now. And I don't think that we have the ability on this council, on this governance committee or the city council to be independent and look at how we're acting ethically as a community. Santa Clara is known for its award-winning ethics program. Well, it was. And so it's time now more than ever that it needs to be brought back. And this is a good first step to meet with an advisor to help us form an independent committee or whatever the options are for us to look at. But ignoring it doesn't mean it's going to go away. It's just bubbling now in the community. And it's at a crisis level as far as I'm concerned, because the council's ignoring it completely, just completely ignoring it. So I don't want to ignore it anymore. I want, at least for this committee, to make a recommendation that we at least reach out to Marcola School, invite them to our next governance meeting to give us some guidelines on how we can approach, acting and approach a process. So we can make sure that we're our best selves when we're up there governing on the city council and the stadium authority board. So I think this is the first step and the first process to do that. There's a lot of other recommendations in the grand jury report, but that itself isn't on the agenda. I wanted to get it started. I'll put it on the agenda for next time, but I want to get it started that at least we talk to some ethical advisors for us to get some kind of process started. So we show our community that we care about this and we're just not sweeping it under the carpet.
I imagine that would be a place to start. I had a few questions about this ethics commission or committee. Have you thought about who serves on it? How many members would be on it? How the members are selected, terms of office, how the work plan is determined? Do we determine that? Do they determine that? How often do they meet? And what is the result or outcome of their work? I mean, what kinds of, the grand jury had recommendations and findings, and what kinds of recommendations would this committee make? And I think you said budget is no issue, so that's settled.
I think you're asking a lot of details. You're further down the road than what I'm suggesting is that we get a consultant to help us come up with options to look at forming a committee. And I think because the committee or the commission that is formed should be independent of us. We shouldn't be selecting people. There should be people that are interested with an ethics consultant. So I think an ethics consultant such as Marcola, it doesn't have to be Marcola Center, but an ethics consultant can bring back options for us to to form a commission, but if we're all the subject of this, ethics, look about, that we shouldn't be picking the people that are on the Ethics Commission. I think our hands should be completely off of this. And, but we do need the help to answer all of those questions that you just asked. I'm not going to sit here and answer them because I don't know. I don't know. It depends on the structure that we set up for this. But I think it's at a time that, again, we have to do something. We can't ignore this. We just can't ignore it anymore, because we're going to be suffering for a lot of the consequences of the fact that we have ignored this. I haven't, but other members of the council have. So anyways, I want professional help for us.
Any other comments from my colleagues?
Thank you, Chair. So I have some questions and process-wise. So we had award, Mayor mentioned that we had an award-winning ethics program, and we had outside consultant for that ethics. So why was that stopped? I would like staff to bring forward that. Why was that particular program was stopped, and who stopped it? Reasons for stopping that, basically.
That occurred before my time, so we can do the research.
Right.
Well, ethics should never stop, but yeah, yeah.
No, I'm saying that
Marco's
if we
cool.
had something in place, why was that stopped, and what did we learn from it? Like, if we stopped for a reason, what did we learn from it? How we can, either we stopped it for, I don't know the reasons, but I want to explore those reasons and find out why we stopped it, basically. And what would be the duties, responsibility, and powers of that particular commission if we go that route, basically? And what are the, one particular question I always ask is, what are other people doing? Not to reinvent the wheel. What are other cities, our neighboring cities or state cities are doing in this field? Like, is the setting up a new commission, or is the best option, or do we have other options which can suffice along? I'm not ruling out the commission, but what are the other cities doing to make it a foolproof method of implementing the ethics, basically? So that's my other question. And of course, the budget, but what would be the budget when staff brings back these things? We should be aware of. I know I'm not limiting the budget, should be the limiting factor to implement the ethics, but I would like to know what would it cost anyway, for that matter. So before we go forward, I would like to have answers for these questions and bring it back.
Mayor.
Well, studying, I think it all can happen concurrently, because it's just wasting more time to figure out, the Marcola Center helped us develop the program, and then we're supposed to be, we're supposed to be acting and following this ethical program, a la our on the wall and all of our other policies that they created for us. So I think that we have an organization, nonprofit, the Marcola Center right here at Santa Clara University, that is, again, award-winning and well-respected ethical center. I would suggest that we reach out to them to provide us with a proposal, a consultant, someone who could help us create this program, just like they did in the past. They probably have some of the same people there. I know they still consult with Judy Nadler, who used to be the mayor of Santa Clara, and others. So they know our city very well, and they're right in our own backyard. And if there's others to get proposals from, but I don't want to wait until a lot of research is done. It can be done concurrently, because I think we're at the point where we have an ethical crisis and we need to deal with it now. So would like for us to at least refer this to the full city council so that we can come up with a come up with a proposal to get a consultant so they can come back with options to answer all those other questions about how they look at us and what alternatives we may have for creating a committee or commission that can take a look at us. And I think the public is going to really appreciate it, that we're actually being proactive and moving forward, because the impression that everybody got after that grand jury report was that, oh yeah, we don't believe anything in this and we're going to say, no, it doesn't apply to us. And half of it was about ethics, but ethics applies to all of us all the time, especially as elected officials. So I'd like to move this on to the full city council.
I'm certainly amenable to approaching the Markula Center and seeing what they have to offer. You know, I did have an extensive discussion with Dr. Tom Shanks, and he's suggested that our ethics and value statement is 22 years old, and it's probably time to revisit that and look at updates to that. So something that I was actually going to put on for future referrals on this agenda, but certainly we need to get some research. We need to get some information about what other cities are doing, what Santa Clara has to offer. I leave it to staff.
And if I may.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh.
Councilmember, go ahead.
I agree to that. Like we can, Markula Center is one option, but I don't want to make it a single source option, basically. And that's the reason I'm saying my exploration is to make this program robust and much better option for the city council to deliberate, not only look at one option with a close vision, but think about in a totality how this will not be a short-term decision. This will be a long-term decision for the city council to go forward to make it a much better program or much better ethics program in the city. And that's the reason I'm saying we need to explore like what other cities are doing and what are our options. Let's put all the options on the table and then go for it.
That will take months and months and months, and I'm not interested in that. I think action needs to be taken now. We're not like any other city. This report didn't come out, this grand jury report, unsportsmanlike conduct, didn't even come close to any city having a report like this. So I think by studying it and kicking the can down the road for months isn't going to address these issues in this report. And I think that we need to get this done, you know, quickly to show our public that we're on the right track. So I really want to push this forward to the full city council so we can have a robust discussion at the council level and get public input on what the public thinks we should be doing. But by studying it and looking at other cities, and that's all fine, it can be done concurrently, but we need to get an advisor to help us as a council. And it's more about us, the 7 of us sitting up there right now, as it is about the entire city. It's about us and how we're governing and who's a priority for us, and start addressing some of these things in there. Because folks, this isn't going away. It's not gone away. It's not. So, and it shows up pretty much every meeting. For God's sake, we have a council member that was criminally indicted by a grand jury and others that are involved. And you're telling me we're not at an ethical crisis right now? We are. And this is going to be ongoing for us. And if we take no steps to try to deal with this now, you know, I guess it's going to be the answers of the grand jury, like none of this applies to us. None of these ethical issues are a problem. Oh yeah, we've got an indicted member. We got others involved. I mean, I just happened to read the transcripts of what happened. I'm shocked and appalled. Shocked and appalled is all I can say. of what's been happening on this council behind the scenes. So let's deal with it. Let's deal with it now. We can study it all we want, months and years. Yes, Councilmember Chall, it's a long process. It's long. But we have issues before us right now, and we are not like any other city right now. I can't even go to other cities and talk to other council members. All they want to talk about is this report. What's going on with the district attorney and the indictments, and that's all I'm getting. That's what we're known for right now. I want that to stop. I want the public to know we take it seriously. We take all these issues seriously, and that's fine. We can talk about stationery and proclamations and does the planning commission get 10 or 20,000 to go on trips? That's not our issue right now. Our number one issue in this community is us, is the council and how we're acting and the ethics and the appearance of how we're acting to our community. So yeah, this is important, and it's important right now.
Is there a mo-
Do you want to go to the public?
Let's go to the public.
Good afternoon, Kirk Vartan. So it's kind of shocking to hear the level of contempt I hear in the chair's voice about the questions that are coming up on this, or even the process that Councilmember Shaw has. You may not like the mayor or how she operates or how she's operated in the past. She's bringing up a fundamental issue about ethics and public trust. You don't have to, yeah, does Tom Shanks think you should revisit it? Yeah, probably. Does that mean that what you have is broken in terms of guidance and stuff like that up on that wall? No, it was award winning. It doesn't mean that the award suddenly expired. It's just not being followed. And you're not taking it seriously. And the fact that the mayor had to come and kick and scream, I don't know what it took to get, but it sounded like you had there was no staff report. So it sounds like you just lobbed it over to the mayor because it came out of nowhere. I don't know. It's not a priority for the people that I've seen here. And ironically, the alternate here, Councilmember Park, is in the audience, and he was the one that said this body is where the discussion of the grand jury report should be, and others agreed with that. And it has not taken place. And in fact, based on that conversation that the chair had and I had on email, it doesn't seem like it's ever going to come up because you thought it was already discussed. We already talked about it at the council level, and there was the action was taken. We already sent the letter out. You guys have a public trust issue, and the first thing you do when you have a problem is admit you have a problem. And I haven't heard anybody here other than the mayor and Councilmember Watanabe say there's an ethics problem. Kicking and screaming about this. It is shocking that this is not top, front and center. Thank you.
Okay, any other members of the public?
We have Wanda Buck online.
Okay,
Let me unmute Wanda. Wanda?
Hi, this is why I'm here, and I've been to the meetings. You know, I know a lot of people, young and old, and been involved in so much in our city. If the talk was about the election for a long time, and you know what a mess that has been. And now all the talk is, every place I go is just what Lisa's saying. And you know, every one of you deserve respect. You all work for little, and I know you care. But the respect between each of you, each other, and what's going on, it's all lost. It's so embarrassing. I'm ashamed of the city that I really love. You know, you can't bring it up without having to defend it in some ways. So I think we need a separate ethics commission, but I defer to having the University of Santa Clara group come in and give us guidance. They're the pros, because there's too much to cover. It's impossible with the number of infrequent meetings that are, and the cancellations and the length of time and all this stuff covered that isn't as most important to address this issue. And for you to be in charge of the ethics of yourself, sadly to say, it just doesn't work out. And it's normal. I mean, how can you govern yourself that way? I understand. So again, I really support, and I know the citizens do. It's not election time now, or you'd be all hearing it yourselves too, you know? And people do have memories, and that's not a threat. It's just, I know you represent the people, but maybe you don't hear their ears or their mouths or what they're saying. So please, let's take action and get that going like Lisa suggested. And it's not like against any one of you, it's to clarify it and be proud of the city we work in, and you're being councilor and mayor of our city. Let's get rid of this shame. Let's improve it. Thank you.
Any other members of the public?
I don't see Tom's hand raised. I don't see Tom on the Zoom call. Is his name Tom? Do you have your name listed?
Okay. So I think, city manager, did you have any comments? Okay. I think we're going to, oh, Mayor.
I was going to make a motion when you're ready.
Okay, Mayor, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we refer to the city council the idea of the creation of an independent ethics commission by hiring an ethics consultant such as Mark Hula School of Ethics or someone similar. But move this to the city council so we can actually get some action.
I would like to make a substitute motion. And that is that we refer this to the city council after getting information from staff about best practices and what other cities are doing and what Mark Hula and other organizations have to offer us.
I'll second that. And
That is
let me-
kicking it down the road.
Let me
completely.
get you the reason for that. Like, it's not eliminating what, Mary, what you said. It is included in that motion. And I know you're trying to make it political. Let's not make it political. The grand jury report was discussed in hours and hours and hours on this council. And there are factual errors on that. Like you can read my response to that. There are factual errors on that. Just by politicizing this grand jury report in that way, that everybody is, whatever mentioned in the grand
you
jury
sick?
report is.
Anthony,
So Councilmember Chahal, this is politics. It's not ethics. Is
No,
that
no,
what
no,
you're
no.
saying?
You are again making it politics. I'm saying we want this thing to be ethical, properly ethically processed, basically. And we want something to be concretely brought forward by the staff and then make a judicial decision. It's not a shortcut. Like I'm not trying to make a shortcut, but we want all the options from the staff on the table before council can make a decision. And I'm in no way, I know you will make it political again that, oh, Councilmember Chahal short circuited it. No, I'm not doing that. I'm for it. I'm trying to initiate a process, but it has to be robust process. We cannot just shortcut and make a decision like that. And then we regret later on, hey, we could have done better on this thing. We could have done. And I still have those questions, like why did we stop the previous ethical program? Who stopped it? Which council stopped it, basically? It used to conduct our elections. Why this was stopped? I want those answers, like why we had to stop it and what were the reasons and how we can bring it. If we have to bring a program, we have to bring a better program than what we had in the previous and what we learned from it. So those are my concerns. Like we need to make it a robust, ethical, whatever commission, committee, whatever we want to make it. We have to make it robust. And for that, the council need to look at the data and need to look at what are the options for the council, not just one option. Yes, one option you suggested, we can look at that also. I'm not denying that we should not look at that option. We should look at that option and other options on the table, and it should come back to the council.
So it should it not go to the council first with this discussion before the staff does all this work? I would imagine that your recommendation then is to bring your recommendation to the city council for discussion.
I believe staff always does a lot of work before it comes to the council. I am going to ask for a vote.
Well,
on the substitute
I'm not
motion.
finished with my comments and I want to hear from
Go ahead,
staff.
Mayor.
What does this mean to you?
Sure. Chair Jane, Mayor, in response to your question, let me back up before going forward. This item, similar to other items before you, where you have one of your members place something on your agenda and make a motion. You essentially have four options. The mayor has articulated her desire to have a item forwarded to the city council. You can accept that and forward it to the city council. You can make a modification and send something different to the city council. You can, as a body, not approve it, and so it essentially does not move beyond this committee hearing, or you could refer something back to staff. What I hear, the motion is a referral to staff or to do a comprehensive evaluation. When you refer something to staff, it is typically not something that as robust as what you've articulated. What you've articulated is a significant amount of analysis that typically we wouldn't do based on direction from a committee. I could actually draw a parallel to a prior discussion we had today where we were talking about a draft policy. The council said, you know what, make a few amendments and bring that back to the committee before going to council. Totally appropriate in our normal operational model. However, the referral that I'm hearing is very comprehensive, very detailed, may take several weeks, if not months to do to bring you back a robust, using the words that I heard, analysis of ethics programs, what peer cities do, why did our prior program sunset, what potential other models are out there. That is a very robust analysis, not saying it's not a good one to do. As a city manager, what I would typically require is something of that magnitude really deserves to be elevated to the full city council and have the city council direct staff to do that. And so given what's being articulated, I would recommend that go to the city council for full direction on staff to work on.
Essentially, it's 0:30.
Well, it's almost analogous to the prior discussion we had when we say if we have a work plan, but yet something comes up, it's critical, it's important, it deserves putting off things that are already on staff's work plan to do. This feels to rise to that level, and something of that level should really be approved by the full governing body. And I think the city attorney has a comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee. I'd like to me too that. This is going to involve a fair amount of work, I imagine, from my group as well. As you guys know, there's a lot going on right now. I appreciate the exercise, and what I'm hearing is everyone in this group wants to do something. The question is, what are the next logical steps? And the city council may end up referring a scope of work, right, both to staff and back to this committee. This might be the right committee, right, to take it up and to get input from consultants or otherwise. But to have a significant scope of work first, get the input from the full council with direction, and the idea that there would be some receptiveness to the council if all this work's done, right, and it comes back to them, that there could be action on it, would be helpful to us, right, before we're combining our resources in working on this, to understand that there is a group expectation and a referral of scope of work. Again, clearly with significant staff work involved, but potentially also back to this committee as the brain trust to receive, some of the preliminary input, to receive some of the input from staff before a particular specific proposal is made back to the council. So that's my long-winded me too, Mr. Chair.
I withdraw my substitute motion. So now we're.
So my motion's back on the floor.
Mayor's motion, which is, could you repeat that for me, please?
Do you have that, City Clerk? Creation of an independent, the idea of the creation of the independent Ethics Commission and look to hire an ethics consultant such as the Markula School of Ethics or something similar. And to refer that to the council. Yeah, that question to the city council.
I will second that.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it will show the community that we're serious about our ethics here in Santa Clara, and we can bring it up with the full council and the public at the appropriate time. The sooner, the better.
Comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move on to staff report. The attorney? AB 1234, yes.
We all do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not like I'm proposing, Madam Mayor. I've touched base with you a little bit before and gotten support, from this committee and from individuals on the council as well for a version of the AB. I call it 1234. My counterpart here says 1234. He wasn't sure what I was even talking about when I said 1234, but however you describe it, the open government and ethics, training that under state law, all legislative bodies elected that receive any kind of salary or the potential for reimbursement are duty bound to, to be trained on. Boy, it's a really robust curriculum, right? That you're required to consider. The online training version of this is only 2 hours, but it really gives short shrift, to a lot of it. And frankly, doesn't give the kind of hands-on practical training specific to the particular local jurisdiction that I think is valuable and important for all of you to receive, the benefit of, and that I've had good success on, presenting before. So I wanted to let you know that still working on, developing that customized, program for this city with the idea that at least for those who are currently required to have that training be made available to you all in the city council, all the boards and commissions, that would qualify, with an opportunity for the public also to observe, and potentially participates training. So it may need to be, public input, near the end of that after we get the training done. So very much still working on that. When the city manager came, I also talked to him about considering whether or not here locally, we might consider whether or not we would expand that requirement for that kind of training beyond merely what's legally necessary. State law says at least those folks that I identified need to get the training, but local jurisdictions can expand, that training as they see fit. Where I came from, and I know other jurisdictions as well, that training is frequently offered and required for anyone filing a Form 700. Right? Anyone who's in a certain level of position and discretion that may be subject to influence, right, from outside interests, may have conflict of interest issues, may be interacting significantly with boards and commissions, right? All of those people could certainly benefit from this training as well, and maybe even again as part of a required condition to their employment. So we're still sorting out those, because there's issues, with that, imposing, that on a larger group of people. It may extend the training obligation to 100+, additional folks. But no matter what, I want you to know we're going down that path. whether it's just for your group or for that expanded, group with the target of being late summer, kind of early fall, for that program. The other thing that I'm looking at and still getting a feel for what's currently being provided is potentially just targeted Brown Act, training for the boards and commissions. When have they last all gotten it? What form would be useful for them to help them kind of better administer, what their, obligations are? What are the best practices, for that? That's not the full elaborate AB 1234 training. It's really just more the mechanics, right, of complying with the legal requirements for boards and commissions. So I want you to be aware we're working on that as well. So appreciate this committee, I know, support, from this effort. City managers, definite interest in making sure, this type of training, again, demonstrating that these things are important to this city, and to the staff, here. And I'm appreciate the opportunity to be an agent, for that and often offer that training exercise. If there's a meeting before your next September meeting, and I've got more specifics and could solicit input from you on that, we'll certainly do that. But no, it will appear on one of your, on all of your agenda at some time in the near future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I know that Xander gives a special Brown Act presentation to the Planning Commission.
Planning Commission, that's right.
And I've been at one at BPAC too. I
Mhm.
think it might be Xander that gives that one too.
Xander's been the ace, on that. And so I'm talking with him about that potentially in, if it's not broken, I won't change it, but potentially enhancing that. And again, making that more widely available to various boards and commissions. So, and obviously we'll work with the city clerk's office, as well as the keeper and monitor of all that is good for Brown Act compliance and on the various boards and commissions.
Okay, but you were thinking of a special city council meeting devoted to AB 1234.
Yes, I was. It could be as long as 3.5 hours with a break, in the middle of it because of the amount of content is involved. And so obviously I'll need to communicate with the larger council, but it wouldn't just be the council, right? It would be the council, any of the boards and commissions, that are covered, by the requirement, and whomever city manager, may have decided is appropriate to include, in that. In my previous presentations, where there was a broader group, there was as many as 50 to 70 people in attendance, usually with one or two members of the public, because it was a noticed, special meeting of the council. People weren't required to take the live version. The online version would still qualify you and satisfy, your obligation both to the state, and to the local jurisdiction. But they'd certainly be encouraged to attend this version because I think it's significantly more useful, even if it's a little more agonizing in the duration.
Okay, city manager, did you have a comment?
I have a question for the city attorney. In the grand jury report, there were several issues that were like Brown Act, potential Brown Act violations, serial meetings and things like that. Would you cover all that in the?
100%. It's one of the core tenets of the training.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we focus on that as well. Thank you.
City manager.
Thank you. Chair Jane, I just wanted to expound upon that essentially what the city attorney is articulating is something that would be a component of a ethics program, not just that one training, but it would have other components. And certainly I've taken the online versions of the AB 1234 training, and there's nothing like the in-person versions that I've had at conferences and agencies that take the added step to provide that in-house during regular business hours for their employees. And also, as the city attorney has suggested, expanding that to council. I would say that that's probably a better practice and a step above what I've seen other agencies do. And again, it could be a component of a larger program, and we can start here.
Very good. Okay, now we're to committee member reports and future referrals for consideration.
I'm going to be bringing back other areas of the grand jury report that deal with our city and our ethics and our operations. Because a lot of the responses that the city gave at the time from the majority of the council were to refer to this committee. So I'll send the chair a list of things I'd like discussed at a future meeting.
Okay, very good. I was going to refer a review of the 22-year-old ethics and values document.
Yeah, maybe everyone should take a look at that.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, is that a thing you're looking for consensus from the group to put on a future agenda? Is that your desire for that?
That's what I was thinking of doing. I know we have a work plan
Mhm.
that we had articulated, and I had actually suggested that 4 meetings a year was not enough for governance and ethics. So we may want to squeeze in another meeting to cover more topics. Because we have our work plan, which is pretty full according to staff. And now we're adding more things to that work plan.
I'd like to see
Mayor?
more substantive things on the work plan than some of these minor things that are sucking up time.
Yeah,
So we would just bring the document back for review by the.
the work plan document. Is that what you're saying? Or the
We're saying
values
the
and ethics?
Values and ethics.
Yeah, let's go over it at a future meeting. Okay, very good. Then we're now to our adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Meeting adjourned at 5:12. Not bad.